Okay, so today we're going to talk about another really important point in the history of the nation of Israel. A couple weeks ago, we talked about how the people of Israel asked for a human king to rule over them, and God granted that wish and desire to them. And so then we have the beginning of the kings of Israel. Well, today we're going to talk about when the nation actually is divided. King Solomon has died, and his son, Rehoboam, has become king in his stead. And the people of Israel come to Rehoboam and say, we would like for you to lighten our load. The load, it was heavy under Solomon, the amount of work, and we would like for you to lighten that. Rehoboam asks for some time to think about it, and he goes and he talks to the elders who had counseled his father Solomon. And they say, listen to the people. Give them what they desire. If you serve them, they will serve you. But he doesn't love that answer. So Rehoboam actually goes to his peers, to young men who are serving him now that he has grown up with. And I imagine this room full of young men with lots of chest pounding and machismo, and they all say, no, you tell those people that they have to listen to you, that you are much tougher than your father, and that you will be harsher on them. Well, Rehoboam thinks that that's a fantastic idea because he's like, yeah, I am tough. I am stronger than my father. So he goes back to the people. And if you look in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 13, it says, the king answered the people harshly, rejecting the advice given him by the elders. He followed the advice of the young men and said, my father made your yoke heavy. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions. Now, 10 points if you can guess how that went. That's right. The people did not like that answer. And of the 12 tribes of Israel, 10 of them seceded. And they actually raised up their own king, a new king named Jeroboam. And so there's only 2 tribes that are still under Rehoboam's reign. And now we have a divided nation. We have the nation of Israel and Judah. Okay, so that's that important point in this history. And moving forward, we're actually going to have 2 separate nations with their own separate kings. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33, Paul actually quotes a really famous, for his day, a poet, a Greek poet. And he says in verse 33, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And as I consider this story and think about Rehoboam and how he was misled, I think about the advice that I seek out. How oftentimes do we seek out advice that tells us what we want to hear? We seek advice that fits with our own cognitive bias and maybe even some of those sinful desires that are in our heart, desires of pride and power or fear. So I ask you to this week, just really consider, what are you listening to? What are the voices that you're listening to? What are the books that you're reading, the podcasts that you're listening to, the news that you're watching, the friends that you're interacting with? And is the advice that they are giving leading you towards the truth that we know in the Lord, towards the trustworthiness of God and his desire for the people around us and our role in this world?